talked a ton about persistence with everything. The next step would be power of the mastermind, the 9 steps to riches, and you've talked about this a little bit as well. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the mastermind? Like, what are your thoughts on mastermind?
I think it's one of my favorite steps.
Okay.
Because, excuse me, I feel like I have so far that I need to progress in order to be successful.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know that I'm ever going to actually hit that metric.
Sure.
I feel like when I hit it, I will have already changed that metric to be 100 times more whatever.
Right.
I don't know that I'm ever going to hit it, but having the opportunity to sit down and consult with people in my mastermind group gets me so much further than it would just sitting down on my own.
Yeah.
And being present and conscious with myself in my meditations.
Yep.
It's super important to do that as well, but having the opportunity to outsource my thoughts and my ideas with other people and kind of collaborate as a group.
Yeah. And I think too that kind of talking about the mind power and like the frequency that, I think we communicate on that ether, just like he's saying, Napoleon Hill saying throughout there, just like the radio waves or the internet or, and like you had pointed it out at the very beginning, is that you, even if you're the best at what you do, like you mentioned those two friends that were the marketers, if we just focus on what are the other things that people can help us out and think 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, think in a win-win situation of how can I help you win and you help me win, and then we both get to the next level and further up. Exactly. And I think one of my favorite examples that he gives in here is about that was earlier I think in the book, but he talks about how Henry Ford's mastermind, a local newspaper had called him, I think it was an ignorant pacifist, and he actually sued him. Saying that he wasn't that he wasn't ignorant, and they brought up all these different questions of, how many people had come in the British Revolution, how many soldiers had died, and he was asking all these questions. He's like, I have no idea what the answer of these questions are, but allow me to remind you that underneath my desk I have a row of push buttons, and I can push one of those and get the answer to any question I ever want in my life. And he's really kind of talking about, yes, he was paying these guys, but they're his mastermind to be able to get further and further to exactly kind of where he wants to go. He even talks about, Andrew Carnegie is a big part of this book, and they mentioned a bunch of different times how Andrew Carnegie really didn't have a ton of idea of the actual production part of the steel, but he had all of these guys in his mastermind that knew how to do that, and he was just this one part, and you can get so much further with it as well. And I think he actually even talks in here as well, is that the more that multiple minds focus on one different thing, the power of all of those minds, just kind of like a bunch of batteries that are linked together, it's just going to get a lot stronger. It gets a lot more powerful. Yeah. So, and I think you've gotten a lot further with the mastermind part than I have in my life. I'm still trying to I get it. I'm just trying to figure out who, like the best people of the mastermind for me would be. Obviously, I would consider you part of that group. But I think it just, like we've talked about this before, and how the mastermind is a really big part of your kind of like evolution process as well, of who you can conduct with and be able to get that knowledge from as well.
So, he talks about it in the book, how some of the people in his mastermind group he never actually met.
I remember that. Yeah.
They're just people that they were dead. I mean,
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. People that he studied and figured out what they would want him to do in that certain situation, or what they would do in that situation. And he learned from their abilities. And so that's kind of how it is for me, right? I have a few people in my, I call it my table of influence, that sit at my table. I have a few people, personally for me, Jesus Christ is always at the head of my table.
Sure.
Because for me, that's the most important, right? But then I have other people, my wife, I have two different owners of the company I'm working with. I have people throughout history. I love just getting different perspectives, kind of like we talked about earlier, the different perspectives from different cultures. So I have Gandhi sits at my table, right? And so I study all of these people. Teddy Roosevelt,
sure,
right? A lot of different people sit at my table because the owners of the business that I consult with in person, they're always going to tell me something different or to approach a situation differently than Jesus Christ or Gandhi, right?
Yeah.
So to have their perspective, and then I take what everybody says and apply it in a way that works best for me. Some people I can actually consult with, and obviously some I can't.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But it's just like you talked about, all of the brain power, the cumulative brain power of 8 or 10 or 2 people is a lot stronger than just one.
Yeah. And I think the thing too is that if we look from different perspectives, or have people like focus on what we're trying to do, and vice versa, that's really what the mastermind is all about, is that there's so much more accomplishment that can be made because maybe we didn't think of a tiny little thing that could be costing us so much time or so much effort. Very similar to how you said about we could hire somebody for $35,000 a year, but we don't want to do that but then, hey, well, let's focus on this perspective. If we fired this $35,000 person to take these calls, we could focus on growing and growing and growing and growing.
It's the opportunity cost.
Yeah,
on both sides,
yeah.
Right?
And I think really like just in life, I mean, where you end up where only one person is thinking and everybody else is following, you end up with a dictatorship.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We've really kind of realized that, even if you look at different countries that are still under dictatorships, it's not as beautiful or fulfilled. It may be for that dictator, but it's not for the rest of everybody else in life.
Yeah.
And so it's really, I think the mastermind is just about making sure that everybody wins, and at the same time using this collective brain power, like those batteries, to make sure that we're getting everything kind of out of life that we want. So this next one.